Hi everyone, the main focus of today's episode is to build a shopping mall in these two blocks here. First off, I'll be placing down some shops along the main road that would have already been here before the mall was built. The road you see down the centre of these two blocks will be removed and make way for one of the entrances to the mall. I decided to create a mall today because we're still relatively close to the centre of the downtown, and I wanted there to be a mall in this area. It is also along the main north-south highway, so we'd get a lot of traffic from people who are just driving through town, as well as locals. Some of the malls I'm taking inspiration from today are Westfield Riccarton in Christchurch, New Zealand, and the Queensgate Mall in Lower Hutt, also in New Zealand. These are malls that I've visited quite a few times and are quite familiar with, so saved a lot on my research today. Westfield Riccarton has these shops out front that face the main road. I kind of wanted to capture this, but compacted it a bit to make them kind of clip into the main mall building. Queensgate Mall, on the other hand, has a cinema on the third floor, and this is pretty much the only thing on the third floor. Later on you'll see that I've done something similar here today. If you're new to the channel, then I'm Stegar, and this is my current project Fairview, which I've been working on for a few weeks now. I hope that this build today will inspire you to create something similar, and if so, you should consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to know more about the series, I've left some information in the description that you can go check out. For this build, I wanted to create a skylight over the central walkway in the mall. To achieve this, I've converted one of the office buildings to procedural objects and rotated it around so that the side of the building would then become the roof of the mall. My initial attempt at this used one of the hotel buildings, but I later decided not to use that one because it said hotel on the top of it and it didn't really make sense. Here I'm copying the skylight along the whole length of the building. At the end it clips into the third floor, and the main building that I'm using for this mall is the Costco Rico building by Crazy Glue. Today I'm using the blank 4x8 tile building from this mod pack. Here you can see me cover up the end of the mall with a concrete wall. I did this because the end of the skylight building is clipping through the edge of the mall. And also it adds a little bit of variety to the textures on the mall. So now I'm adjusting the road and moving it out further from the building. I did this because I needed to create a space for an entranceway to the mall from this road. I will then be going around other parts of the mall and adding a few more entrances, including one where the road would have been before the mall was built. I'm thinking that the mall was probably built in maybe the 70s or 80s even, and might have had like one expansion so far. I'm also considering on the next block over creating a construction site that could be for a future expansion to the mall. Don't hold me to this, as it's just kind of a thought that I've just had right now. If you want to specify exact dates of when the mall was built and what might have been expanded on, then you can leave a comment and I could add this in some coming episode. Here I'm using the terraforming network to flatten the ground around the edge of the building. I'm placing down a Crystal, which is apparently an American fast food restaurant in the southeast, known for square hamburger slider with steamed onions. That description isn't very perfect English. I think I should have said sliders, but I'm just reading it off of what's on screen. And on the other side of the entranceway here, you would have seen me place down a Burger King, which is kind of half clipped into the building. And with the entranceway, I've put a pedestrian path between it going to the other one so that people actually walk through and it looks like it's functioning. As you can see on screen, I'm building a parking lot here. I kind of wish that I'd built a loading dock instead, because it's something that the mall doesn't have, and a loading dock is probably something that's very much required in real life for a mall to function. So here the roof of one of the buildings was clipping through the roof of the main mall building, and I wanted to try and hide this, so added another one of these 4x8 buildings above it. This third floor bit will also connect with the pedestrian walkway that goes over to the parking lot that I build later in the episode. Moving on, I was trying to find a building that wasn't too tall that could cover the end of the skylight here. For this build, I again tried to stick to using a maximum of 4 stories for the height of the buildings. I probably could have gotten away with using taller buildings, as this is a slightly more recent addition to the city. For the 2 office buildings that I just placed down, I have sunk them down so that I can use more of a variety of buildings, as these ones would usually be about 6 or 7 stories. But in this case they're only 4 because some of it's hidden underground. I'm using the Building Anarchy mod, which I discovered not that long ago, and I have the setting enabled so that it shouldn't flatten the terrain. With the parking lots here, it took me a bit of time to work out what I was going to do. Originally, I was going to just use a single-story parking lot, and then I decided on some multi-story ones, but the first ones I tried were too tall for what I wanted. So I found this 3-story one, except it's not very big in terms of the area it takes up, so I ended up placing 2 of them. And now I'm starting on the bridge that connects this parking lot with the main mall. I'm using procedural objects for this, and again rotating the building around to face the right way. I have kind of created a little bit of a slope here so that the heights will line up by the time people get across the road. At the end of the walkway here, I'm going to cover up the unusual looking bit with a low density shop. I'm just moving this into place over top of that bit, and it could perhaps be a small office or something for someone, say a manager or CEO of the mall. Here I've converted another shop into procedural objects and am adjusting the sign on top of it. I didn't want the sign here as it shows through when I place it in front of the bridge on the side with the parking lot. After this, I shifted the bridge down slightly so that the building was no longer clipping through. I've excluded this from today's video because it's kind of not that interesting when it's literally just shifting it like not even a meter. Behind the car park here, I'm going to place down a supermarket, and behind that supermarket I will include a loading bay for cargo and things. After I've detailed around the loading bay, I'll be moving on to some of the blocks that in between this one and what's already in the downtown, and filling these up. I'll be adding a variety of shops and big warehouse sized shops and a few houses along the back of one of the blocks. If you've been hanging out to hear of any stories that people might have commented on the last video, then unfortunately there's not any today, because at the time of recording this, episode 6 hasn't actually come out yet. I'll cover it in maybe next episode or the following one though. That is, again, if anyone actually commented on it. I mean, you could always go over and have a look yourself, so I've left a link in the YouTube card up in the top corner. So now I'm going to leave you with some music for a few minutes, and it might also be a good opportunity for you to give this video a like. now that the music's finished, let's talk about what I've been doing for the past few minutes. I started off with the area around the supermarket and added the back loading area behind it. In this block that I've been working on, I added some shops facing the main road. There is a small park area between the shops and the road, and there's another park behind it with oak trees. I used oak trees here to change things up from the maple trees that I've been using in the suburbs. Oak trees are, or can be, evergreen, so it kind of makes sense that they could be here when everything else is turned yellow or red. Behind the park is a few houses. These are on slightly smaller sections than the ones that I've built in the past. In the final block that I worked on today, there's a large store and a Toys R Us. Behind that large store is a loading dock, and this is fenced off, and next to it is a small cafe with some outdoor seating. I am finishing off today's episode by building some road layouts for suburbs that I'll work on not next episode, but the episode after that, hopefully. Next episode, I expand the downtown and start to work in amongst these roads, but don't get much done within that area as I mainly focus on the downtown. If you want to see the next episode, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and have the bell on so that you get notified. If you want to leave some feedback for me, then I would appreciate it, or you could just comment about maybe some stories about some of the buildings in the city. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. I'll now leave you with the cinematics, and I'll see you next week.